Now, the GOP field has become a little less crowded. On Friday, Rick Perry, former governor of Texas, and man who has no idea what branch of government he actually wants to eliminate, has now dropped out of the race. Rick Perry is done. Now, he said in a statement, actually in a speech, "Today I'm suspending my campaign for the presidency of the United States." But adds, "Life's good. I'm a blessed man." Well, if you were making so much money as the governor of Texas, which I'm sure you have, yeah, I would also say life is good if I was doing that. Now, he took a couple of shots at Trump at his during his concession speech, I guess, and he says the conservative movement has always been about principles, not personalities. Ooh, a little bit of shot at celebrity Donald Trump. Now, our nominee should embody those principles, he said. He or she must make the case for the cause of conservatism more than the cause of their own celebrity. So, already, here's Rick Perry, bitter man. Ooh, so bitter. And he's bitter because he ran out of money, and he was doing horribly in the polls because of Donald Trump. Oh, and also because he's a terrible candidate. As I said, this is no surprise because Rick Perry polled at about 1%. He joined Chris Christie and Bobby Jindal. And what's surprising is that there are people that actually are doing worse than Rick Perry, Bobby, and I keep doing that. I don't know why. And Chris Christie. And that would be Jim Gilmore and George Pataki? They poll at less than 1%. Now, Trump dominating the field. Look, say what you will about Trump. He's the best marketer that I have ever seen. And unfortunately, our politics today revolves a lot around the idea of marketing. Marketing yourself as a candidate and marketing your ideas. Trump is a businessman and a master marketer. As I said, I'm not a fan of Trump, but you do have to give credit where credit is due. And Trump is a master marketer. Rick Perry, not so much. Bobby Jindal, not so much. And Chris Christie, well, I did a video on that. Christie essentially was out-Trumped. He was beaten at his own game, being the tough guy. No reason, I'm going to punch teachers' unions in the face. Yeah, well, that was Chris Christie's shtick. And then here comes, Donald Trump Donkey Konging him in the head and taking his spot. Chris Christie's nothing. He's done. And I've made that, he should be one of the next few to drop out. And so, hear me now, quote me later. Chris Christie, he's either going to be the next or the next after. He's within that field of Lindsey Graham, Bobby Jindal, and George Pataki, and of course, the other guy, Jim Gilmore. Who's ever heard of those two? I don't know, right? So, I saw this coming. Speaking of predictions, right? Speaking of hear me now, quote me later. I saw this coming back when Rick Perry started running out of money and started firing his campaign staff. Not really fire, but more like, I'm going to stop paying you. So you can volunteer for me, but you're not officially on payroll anymore because I don't have anything to pay you with. So I made that prediction earlier, and sure enough, Rick Perry, first one to drop out. Now, Doug Deason. Now, these are some interesting facts about how badly Perry was doing, not just in polling, but when it came to fundraising. As I said, Doug Deason, who was the son of a $5 million donor to the Perry Super PAC, which, by the way, the Perry Super PAC, that's going to be relevant later on. Now, he said that Perry's campaign had only raised about $100,000 in the 2 months since the last reporting period. Now, when it comes to the world of campaign finance, that is dismal. That is low. And that is something, of course, the mainstream corporate media really takes a look at. Oh, how much money do you have? How much money can you raise? How much money did you raise this month? Now, I don't think it should be that important, but when it comes to our politics, especially on the GOP side, but I guess you could really say that it expands to all sides of the uh, presidential campaign, whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, the media tends to focus on how much money you're making, and you do need money to run a campaign. And Rick Perry had run out of that. He was getting very small levels of donations to his actual campaign, but, as I could say, his super PAC did raise about $17 million. Now, that's probably going to go to somebody else. And as I said, that's relevant. Now, the article mentions that his departure will likely create an intense fight for that money. So here comes the ass kissing. I love this. Now, the entire GOP field decided that they were going to, kiss Perry's ass to see if he can get that, or if they could get his money that his super PAC didn't spend. Now, obviously, Rick Perry can't coordinate with the super PAC. We all know that. However, the people who run the super PAC have nowhere to donate that money to. So, you can see now some of the GOP candidates trying to line up those donors. For example, Ted Cruz. Now, he said this on Twitter: the entire GOP field was unquestionably made stronger by the experience and wisdom Governor Perry brought to the race. Governor Perry is so experienced in wisdom. Did I mention that I'm experienced in wisdom, full of experience and wisdom too? Hey, you might want to shove some money my way. Marco Rubio, probably in desperate need of money. Governor Perry has dedicated his entire life to his family, friends, and Jesus. Oh, so much pandering here. Marco Rubio. Here's the translation for Marco Rubio. I need money. Can you just give me money? Like, you're so dedicated to Jesus. You know what Jesus would do? He'd give me a bunch of money. That's what he would do. All right. And finally, Jeb Bush. Jeb. Amen. God bless Rick Perry for his continuing commitment to the cause of conservatism. Amen, man. Amen. If you remember, Rick Perry, at a recent rally, Onward Christian Soldiers. Now, as a secular person looking at that, it scares the crap out of me whenever somebody says that. Onward Christian Soldiers. Right? Well, now, obviously, you see Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio saying, hey, we believe in Jesus too. You can give us some money. Hey. As I said, the whole thing is about trying to get his money. Now, you might say that, dude, come on, you're cynical, right? You're cynical. No. This is how politics is played. Look, his backers, they have $17 million to spend. That's a decent chunk of money for a campaign. Those backers got to go somewhere. And if you think this is all this praise is because they respect Governor Perry, oh, come on. No. They don't respect him or his commitment to conservatism. And if you think that, you don't know politics.